Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for the brand new video. And today's video almost feels like a fever dream, as I never ever thought I'd be sitting here discussing this topic. And that's not a dig or a disrespect to the player we're here to talk about today. Nah, it's the exact opposite. I thought it was yet another player that slipped through the cracks that we've just stuck our nose up to, no paying attention to, because he can perform in this league that we want to get back to being able to perform well. And I thought this guy was just joining a very, very long, painful list of players that slipped through the cracks. But maybe fate had a different idea, as the big man's new up the road. And by God, am I thankful for it. But before we do start kicking those tires and discussing what clearly needs to be discussed regarding this player and regarding the signing, it's time as always to chuck the old arms out and offer a warm embrace to the latest and newest signing, Mr. Bojan Miovski. May you be as devastated and dangerous for us as you seemingly were every single time against us whenever you pull on a pair of bits. And that actually gives me the perfect transition and helps address a massive elephant in today's video, because clearly we know who Bojan is, what he's good at, where he can hurt you and where he probably can fit in with the Rangers team. And that's not known for these types of player profiles and breakdowns and reactions, because it is usually the unknown. It is usually something we need to dive into. So the rough structure of the video is going to remain the same. However, I feel like we can go in a wee bit more deeper detail in several areas, especially his experience in Scottish football, what that actually finally means for our football club, and what's happened to him since leaving Aberdeen, where his career looked like it was doing this. How has it stalled? How has it fell away? And how have we been able to snap this laddie up for what we have? So there is a hell of a lot to discuss, despite us knowing a wee bit about Bojan. But for my own sanity and my ridiculous levels of OCD, we are still going to start off with the player profile, work our way through the football and CV, and then get to the old competition for places, which again is vital, but it won't take long. And starting off with the obvious that I imagine most people knows, and then we'll get a wee bit deeper and start uncovering some maybe stuff you didn't know about the player. We'll start off with the obvious. Bojan Miovski is a 26-year-old centre forward who stands at around about 6'2", and he plays for his country of North Macedonia. He's known for his aerial threat, his work rate, his desire, dare I say nastiness in terms of putting himself about and again inserting himself in games and leaving one on centre-backs, picking up yellow cards, but more importantly regarding the fact that he is a striker. He is known for being able to put the circular object beyond the keeper, smashing the old back of the net, if you frickin' will. Again, as Rangers fans, we're very, very familiar with that, because it seemed more so than not that the man was able to do that to us every single time that he played against us. We've seen him run our defenders ragged. We've seen him throw his body on the line. We've seen the antics winding up our centre-backs, but again, we've also seen him score all types of goals versus us. Right foot, left foot, header. We've seen it all, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because one of his best games in an Aberdeen shirt versus Rangers came in a semi-final stage on a massive occasion where not only did he score in the game of football, he absolutely bullied our centre-backs on a day, and he ran our team ragged and was one of the main reasons Aberdeen were able to win that semi-final 2-1 versus us. Very, very frustrating on a day, but I didn't need to relive it. I didn't need to go down memory lane. It's built into the membrane. I've got a vivid memory of his fantastic performance. That was the best I'd seen him play at that point versus frickin' Rangers. But again, without sounding disrespectful and without putting anybody down, we have seen players for the likes of Aberdeen being able to raise their game every time Rangers comes on in the calendar, because the fans drill it into the players. They let them know how important that game is, that it is a massive cup final if you want. So we've seen performances and players play above their station every single time the Rangers game comes around on the calendar, and then it just sort of fizzles away and crumbles away against every other team in Scottish football. But the best thing you could say about Big Bojan is it doesn't really seem to matter who he's playing against. Whether it is us or not, he was a pretty damn consistent baller in Scottish football, and he played with the same bite and the same threat. I mean, for instance, against Celtic as well, he's got an eerily similar scoring percentage versus them as he does us. Nearly identical, ladies and gentlemen. And again, some of the standard of goals that he scored versus Celtic were absolutely outrageous. The one where he took Carter Vickers for a walk, ran about 30-40 yards before tucking away with his left foot. It was an absolute absolutely sensational finish, and it didn't matter who you were or what colour your jersey was or if there was hoops or no. The guy was there to play at that level, at that intensity, and he just wants to score frickin' damn goals. And that's exciting to me, to see in that type of mentality, to see that type of approach, and to see that type of consistency in terms of putting the ball into the back of net. He's not a 1 out of every 5 or 1 out of every big game here or there. Yes, he can turn up in the big occasions, and he showed that versus Rangers and Celtic numerous times in his Aberdeen career. But again, against the other teams, against the Dross, against the Hammer throwers, if you want to go ahead and say that, he put himself about and still banged the ball into the back of net, which again is what this club badly needs. Now, if you watch this channel for many years, whenever we've made the videos talking about players that impress me in Scottish football, if you've watched preview videos of that in the past, there usually is players I pick out, and Bojan was always one, you know what I mean? Especially during the height of Shanklin mania, if you will. I was always just peering there and always made sure to mention big Bojan and be like, hey, there's a guy younger there. He's scoring a lot of goals, he can move, he can run, he's interesting, right? But I never thought it would ever translate to something, so it is very exciting for me sitting here as a Rangers fan, because I know some people might look down on it and do that, but I like the way he plays, and I like the way he goes about his business. Again, we've already talked about his maybe physical assets, but up here as well, the way he goes about his business, that nastiness we talk about, isn't me sitting saying, oh, I want him to go and injure players and break folks' legs or anything like that, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a physical league in Scotland, right? People can put it down, people can talk it for this, call it Farmers League, they can do all that, but you really need to earn every single touch of a football, especially when you're an attacker, because you know what's coming from behind you, you know how these defenders defend, and what I like about this guy is he gives as good as he gets, and he's shown that with his ridiculous yellow card rate, but again, he plays at that edge, and I think that bite and that edge is what's been badly, solely lacking at this football club. So I think, yes, as a player, he's certainly got good attributes, or finishing, heading ability, all that stuff, but up here as well, the fact that he relishes that is again something that's been badly missing for far too long. We've had good guys and nice guys, but nice guys finish last. We might have just brought in somebody that's got a wee bit the nastier side of the game that could add that bite that's been missing since maybe Alfredo was throwing people about. But that's probably enough said regarding Bojan, the player. Let's move away from the old player profile and to get to some numbers and stats then, shall we? And let's talk about the nitty gritty. Let's talk about how he's here, what's happened after his Aberdeen run. Because if you look at his most recent season of football before coming up the road to Rangers, there is 1 game played in terms of Girona and over in Spain. That's all that he's played. 1 freaking game. So there's not much we can actually dissect in it, because he didn't score, he got subbed off early in the game in football. There's nothing really to sink our teeth in it. So let's go back to the previous season and start laying the foundations and laying the old pathway, if you will, to lead us to how he's ended up at this football club, because his time at Girona was certainly a whirlwind as the rise and sharp decline was there, almost like that for the football club, and big Bojan was dropped right in the middle of it and often blamed for this part of it. But first, let's talk straight numbers then, shall we? After him making the big money move from Aberdeen over to Spain, he played 22 games in all competitions. In those 22 games, he scored 4 goals and he grabbed 2 assists. Yeah, that's what he done last year. Is that exciting? Is that big bad boy numbers? Is that eye-watering stats? Nah. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't look good, and maybe the lazy narrative is, oh, he can only perform in Scottish football, he went in there and flopped, blah blah blah. It's just another long list. But again, for me, and I'm not sounding disrespectful, that's such a lazy narrative to look at it, because context is key, especially again when you talk about that rise and fall for the side that he signed for, right? Because Girona, the season prior to Bojan signing, finished 3rd. They shocked Spanish football, right? They broke that into that top 3 dominance, if you will. They shot everything that could have went their way that season, and they went on to have an incredible campaign, finishing 3rd and qualifying for the Champions League, right? Expectations went through the roof, but because they played at such a high level, guess what that means for the players that played at the highest level? Other clubs noticed, and other clubs came sniffing around, and in the summer that saw them bring in the likes of Bojan, but they also lost a total of 14 players that were playing for them the previous year. Again, more so than not, some of them absolutely, but losing 2 players, especially for a combined over £50 million, is going to take a big swing out of a team and take a big heart out the team, and they lost several key pieces, right? And then they went ahead and spent it. Again, they brought in 12 players in all like positions, whether it is loans, free transfers, money signings, etc. They brought in 12 players, which again, losing 14, bringing 12 looks alright. But I'm going to read you a couple of the names that they rebuilt their team. After shocking the Spanish world, they rebuilt their team with Donny van de Beek, they've done it with Brian Gil, and they brought in the likes of Arthur Melo. Now, you might know these players, and if you do know them, you know exactly where I'm going to go with this. That is 3 players that for several seasons now have been floundering about and struggling for consistency and minutes, and Girona reached out, picked him up, says, aye, let's build our team on you guys to replace what we've just lost. You can go ahead and guess how that's turned out. That's right, it was an absolute car crash as Girona went from 4th the previous year to 16th the following year, in which saw them survive the top flight Spanish football thanks to one freaking point. That is it. That's a complete 180. That's the car crash. That's the circus that Bojan walked into. And as you can imagine, the nice were sharpening, his expectations were up here, and they completely went the other way. And there was several casualties of that. There's been a couple of people signalled out. There's a couple of people that's needing replaced. There's a couple of people that's just no work to do. And that can happen at every single club, especially one going through a volatile season like that, in my personal opinion. And Bojan was one of those casualties that was blamed for a lot of it, despite again only playing 22 times, despite having 6 goal contributions, and despite only not starting every single game of those 22, as he was a sub in several of them. But again, he wasn't a part of the big rebuild. He was a part of the signings. He was a part of the people that was brought in that saw the decline, and I just didn't think it ever meshed, and I think that's why we've led us to the path that he's currently on, where the following season he played once, then got bombed out the squad again. He only played 43 minutes in his first game of the season, was told that he wasn't needed for the following one, and Girona's picking up exactly where they left off last season, and that's getting their scants pulled down as they got battered on the opening day when he played, and they got slapped 5-0 at the game. He was told he wasn't needed anymore. So aye, there's a circus going on right there, and Bojan again was dropped in the middle of it. And to circle back to something we talked about a minute or two ago before we went down rabbit hole, to label him as a flop going over there and an SPFL flop going abroad and everything like that, it's very, very harsh when you didn't pay attention to actually what was going on and the complete chaos that went on that season for the team that he was playing. You know what I mean? He barely got a touch as it is at Aberdeen, Drips. You know what I mean? He wasn't getting many chances per game at Aberdeen. He got even less as that team was seemingly getting pummeled every single week in Spanish football. But again, without sounding disrespectful, again, all this stuff about what they do elsewhere and everything like that is important to explain and maybe paint the picture of a player we potentially don't know. But again, we know about Bojan, so him going to Spain and it not working out is almost irrelevant, because he's got, again, clear proof of performing in this league and providing and performing where it matters most to us Rangers fans. So let's look into that, because Bojan in his last season for Aberdeen, who were not good that year by the way, and were creating even less for the big man that he was maybe accustomed to playing for Aberdeen, somehow, some way, he still bagged 26 goals in 53 games, including 2 in 2 Europa League qualifiers, and he was still able to grab 3 goal contributions in 5 Conference League games as well. Despite Aberdeen's struggles, the big man was dragging them, the big man was scoring, and the big man was often creating his own opportunities, going for a run and putting the ball into the back of net. Again, showing that he can be a reliable goal scorer in this country, and that's what he showed the previous years prior, as well as he showed and really sharpened up and got used to the physicality, started being extra physical himself. And again, he just took off and he fit with the physicality of your game. But before we do take a step back and look at his overall footballing CV, let's stay with Scottish football for a second, because that's what really matters to me. If you look at Bojan Miovski's entire time at Aberdeen in every competition, when you chuck everything that Scottish football can throw at you at the big man, that resulted and ended with 91 games in which he had 45 goal contributions. Again, playing for Aberdeen, who exactly weren't always firing in all cylinders, didn't always get every touch of the football and create numerous chances per game. His output in Scottish football was absolutely sensational, so I feel like that was worth mentioning. But again, taking a step back and look at the overall piece if you want, at just club level before we touch on the international stuff. If you look at him for club, he's played 220 games in all competitions in which he has 75 goals. He's got 29 assists. He's also picked up 35 yellow cards as well. By the way, the booking on the bet builder has finally been resolved. Please gamble responsibly, by the way. So when you chuck all that together, barring the yellow cards, of course that means he's got 104 goal contributions in the 220 games at being a striker at the age of 26. Not even in his prime, dare you say, and still learning and adapting and improving his game, whilst already showing he can handle what other strikers in our Rangers jersey can on a week to week basis. You know what I mean? Averaging a goal or assist in his entire career at the age of 26, around about 2.11 times. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he averages, troops. That's very exciting to me. And again, I've probably said it far too many times, he's never been on a side that truly dominates the ball. Now, you could make an argument we didn't create opportunities for strikers as it is, and that's very, very fair. But I'm taking it into the context that he's coming to Rangers now, and I'm hoping to God that we eventually start playing football. And if we start playing football, we're going to create some chances. And we've got a striker in Scottish football that can take them. And he's shown that overall in his career. Something else that stood out to me, by the way, is we remember we talked about the 35 yellow cards at club level. Do you know he's never been sent off? I imagine everything that he got away with when he was wearing an Aberdeen shirt might be get looked at a wee bit more closely where he was wearing the old royal blue. So but what's the bet in that if he does come up the road, or when he does come up the road, I should say, that he ends up getting a red card this frickin' season? Over or under 50% chance he gets sent off for Rangers? Let me know down in the comments section below. But that's the numbers, that's the stats, and that's the pathway this man's been on since leaving Aberdeen that leads him to Rangers, where he opens the door, looks at the competition for places in terms of leading the line at Rangers, and goes ahead and chuckles and be like, by goodness gracious, I've really, really got a chance to start a hell of a lot of games, especially in Scottish football. And again, every attribute he's brought to the table against Rangers, if he can go ahead today, will be a massive, massive asset to this football club. And we talk about bullies, and we talk about player after player after player in these opposition teams. The low block, the part the bars, the hammer, for whatever people want. The Gogic test, for instance, you finally got a guy that gives as good as he gets and will bite back and he will bark back. And again, that's what I feel like we've been badly, badly needing. Just somebody with son up there that's not just sitting smiling and is Mr. Nice, nice, nice all the time. There's somebody to give back to these guys, and it might just get us up the park. It might just win us a lot of free kicks, and it might just win us some aerial duels, you know what I mean? I could greet, ladies and gentlemen. But that's my thoughts and opinions as I get a little bit of itch on the old nose. That's my opinion on Bojan. I'm a big, big fan. I was a big fan of him at Aberdeen. Obviously, they're always going to be, I can't believe we're signing a boy that was at Aberdeen. Oh my God, I can see why people want to go down that route. But again, at the same time, us turning our nose at players that can perform week in and week out in Scottish football has, in my personal opinion, moved us further away from what used to bring us success and what our teams used to be built on. It was going ahead and picking these players and be like, are you playing really well there? Right, I'll come with you. Again, they're not always going to be a success. There will be up and down, and there will be ones that fail to go the test. But when we were a successful team, we looked around the league that we could play the exact same teams, the same 12 teams every single week. It feels like, you know what I mean? And just have the appetite to play. We'd pick them, pick them, pick them. And now, maybe went around the long route, we went ahead and got one of the best strikers that's been in Scottish football for a long, long time, in my personal opinion, at least the last 5-6 years. So we've got him now. Will he proceed and actually be able to wear the shirt and handle the pressure and need to perform every single week? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm happy we finally have somebody with a bit of something up there. What about you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down there in the old comment section below. Are you happy? Are you mad? Are you sad? Or are you glad? It'd be great to know your thoughts and opinions. And as always, shout out to the legends that are signed up to the channel Legend membership. Shout out to those that are also signed up to the supporter range as well. Thank you for that. And to each and every single person that watches today's video, thank you from me to thee. There's a smile, and I like that. Long, long may it continue. Please, please, Rangers, and good luck to Big Bojan as well. Hopefully as good as he was against freaking us. But until the next video, I've been CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and bye-bye.